I was interested on after hearing the things he shared and what I can do with radiography. So I applied for it, and by the grace of God, I got it, and then I began and graduated. But when the reality began, we started internship and we're in the hospital. I realized that this hospital is not for me. The practice in Nigeria and outside Nigeria was different when we began to hear our colleagues.
Just tell us, we read a little of your bio. We don't have, we cannot take everything, just a little. From this little, from your heart, can you just tell us again how you start? How was your journey? How is it like for you? And where you came from and where you are at now. So people, everyone on the call can have your just from your heart. Let's just begin on that note. Thank you. And go ahead.
Grateful for this opportunity, and I kept telling people around me that I am so humbled that you found me worthy and invited me to this platform, because you are definitely a mentor that has seen me grow, and you have shaped who I am and what I am today. Every moment with you, whether it's 5 minutes or phone call, has been always an encouragement, and your life has also been an encouragement and a testament. So I'm so grateful, and thank you, sir. Ooh, to the question on where I am coming from and what made me realize that I had a future beyond videography and inventing myself. Okay, so um, growing up, we wanted to be, generally, we all wanted to be doctor and all of that. But in my SS1, I had a lesson teacher, and it was my lesson teacher that explained to me about other sectors or other courses that you can study in the university that are marketable globally. And he encouraged me to study radiography. And that time, medical radiography was in the College of Medical Sciences for the University of Maiduguri. So I was interested on after hearing the things he shared and what I can do with radiography. So I applied for it, and by the grace of God, I got it, and then I began and graduated. And when we graduated, that was now the reality that apparently my lesson teacher was not a Nigerian at that time. So apparently the reality in Nigeria was different. Even though, yes, radiography too was just coming up in Nigeria, and there were so many opportunities. Truth be told, most of my classmates now are not even in Nigeria. Those that are in Nigeria are occupying top places either in the military or in the private sector, especially for radiation protection, oncology, and the rest. But when the reality began, we started internship and we're in the hospital. I realized that this hospital is not for me. I have, I have, I have a problem with the hospital politics. I have a problem with our healthcare system. Our healthcare system was discouraging. Then also looking at the inequality within the health system. I know how many times that we have a lot of patients. I served in one of the largest and most busiest hospitals in Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital in Kano State. You have about 150 patients waiting for a procedure, but because someone knows the CMD, someone knows the HOD, they just bring in a special client and then, yeah, please do this procedure for this person. And you can't say no. And I was like, this is not fair. There are people that have been here from 6 a.m. So most of the times, before I would attend to a VIP patient, I will make sure that I had done the other patients that were there on time. The inequality within the health system, the politics there, you have to be close to your chief, or your HOD likes you before you can move forward in your profession. And I was not satisfied with that. And then the practice in Nigeria and outside Nigeria was different when we began to hear our colleagues and senior friends, senior colleagues, sorry, that were outside of Nigeria. So all my classmates and colleagues were, we are going to leave Nigeria, we are going to leave Nigeria. So for me, it was desire and purpose to help people better, the fight the inequality, and then I stumbled across the humanitarian sector in 2016 when one of my senior colleagues from secondary school we met, and he's like, I'm working in this organization, this is what we do. I was like, this sounds like something I want to do, and not what I'm doing in the hospital. He explained better, and then I began to pray about it, and I told him, okay, I am willing to volunteer. So while I was doing my NYSC, I was serving. In the morning, I go to the hospital. In the evening, I go to volunteer. So after I had volunteered for a while, then I got the opportunity with a French organization to begin to work. And that is another story on its own, on reinventing yourself to fit in and grow within the ranks. Thank you, sir.
Wow. Amazing. Can we have some emojis, please, if you've been following this wonderful background he just gave? Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm glad we are all following. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Victory. This first opportunity the opportunity you got to volunteer and the opportunity you got as your first opportunity to work, how different was it from your primary background in terms of professional background? So because some the people can appreciate um, the transition and the amount of work you had to put into coping with your new role.
Yes, sir, it was quite different, a lot of difference, even though there are few skills that I had that was useful, but it was very different because from the clinical setting, there is these, there are, you already have some clinical protocols on what to do. You already have some other colleagues. For me, the difficulty was the change in the familiarity of the system. I was already used to the hospital system, but now I am into a new system where the language was different. I began to hear things like child protection. I'm hearing things like gender-based violence. I'm hearing things like conducting multi-sectoral needs assessments. I'm hearing things like indicators, and hearing things like log frames, the logical framework. I'm like, what is a logical framework? And it's very different it was very different from what I know from the medical background. So I had to put in a lot of work, a lot of work. And at that time, the humanitarian sector had just also started within the Northeast within that 2014-15. So it's not like there was a lot of knowledge and resources that you could leverage on around. So I had to ask questions a lot. I had to put in a lot of work to follow study materials, go for trainings. I had to put a lot of effort so that first of all, I could catch up with understand the system first, then catch up. That was when I knew that, okay, even in the humanitarian sectors, there are different sectors, different units. The first is broadly divided into two: the programs that implement, and then the support unit. Because you'll be hearing support services, you'll be hearing operations. I like, okay, what is the difference? You'll be hearing programs, head of programs. So they were different. You need to know that there's difference in that. Then I had to know that, okay, there are different sectors. You have health sector, you have the water, sanitation, and hygiene, you have protection, you have food security and livelihood, you have the shelter and camp management. You had to learn that. Then, apart from that, you now understand that there are different coordination forums for all of them and different systems that manage them. Then I had to also now understand that even within certain sectors, there are different subsectors, and then the setup is totally different. One of the shocks for me is, in the health setting,
Mm.
as there is this chain of command and respect
Mm.
that you have.
Yes.
For
Yes.
no reason can you raise your voice at your chief or your
Mm.
senior. It's
Mm.
not possible.
Mm.
But
Sure.
in the humanitarian sector, a junior staff can confront the head of programs
Mm.
or the head of the organization,
Mm.
and they argue back and forth as like, okay, this is this is this is serious. Then I could also hear from some other colleagues from the medical side that they will also say, they believe that the medical sector has more decorum and more respect than the here in the sector, because this sector is built on equality, dignity, and respect. In the hospital, you can't go and report your chief to who? Who would you report to? But here, you can report your supervisor to a system or a higher level person, and you'll be held accountable. So the accountability in the system was also different, and I had to put in a lot of work to understand better and fit into the system.
Amazing. Amazing. Can we respond with our emojis if we are following? Awesome. Awesome. Amazing. Amazing.